For 10 years, Oldschool Runescape has not gotten a single new skill to train. We have tried countless of times with new ideas like Artisan and Warding, but either of them passed the threshold for a poll. Until 16th of December 2022, when Jagex asked the players, guys, do you want a new skill? And a whopping 81% of the players shouted out from the top of their lungs, yes, please, we want a new skill. And that brings us back to present day. Jagex had almost 4 months to come up with 3 new core ideas for the first skill of Oldschool Runescape, and all of those ideas were revealed today. So let's go over all of the ideas, what they represent in the game, what changes we should make, and what to expect. First of all, how did these 3 skill pitches come to life? Great question. A few months ago, Jagex asked players for feedback, and based on almost 50,000 survey results, they managed to mold out the best of the best. And this is where we ended up today. So without further ado, we're starting off with idea number 2 and the most talked about idea so far, sailing. This has without a doubt been one of the most talked topics when a new skill discussion has come up. Sailing, a skill that focuses on 3 core concepts: navigating between different ports in Oldschool Runescape, obtaining and building ships, and engaging in activities on the sea. Whether it's new islands to discover, new raids, new skilling locations, you name it. To get started with sailing, you need to find any port in Gillenor, the most common ones being in Port Serim, the starting point for all ports, Seiya, the newest port in Oldschool Runescape, and the sandy beaches of Caterpie. But don't worry, these aren't all the ports we have, as you can start exploring from any available port in Oldschool Runescape. Once you got a ship, you can start exploring new areas of the map, whether they are peaks, lair caves, or just new fishing spots. The main training methods for sailing will be the activities you can do at the sea, instead of just building new boats at the ports. So for instance, one of the activities for sailing could be deep sea fishing. You would most likely gain sailing experience based on what you are fishing, and the higher your fishing and sailing levels are, the more experience you get. And this goes for all sailing activities, whether it's sending packages across Gillenor, fighting monsters, or discovering new islands. Not only that, but the higher your sailing level is, the bigger boats you can build, which allows you to explore even further. Jagex has stated that the amount of new training methods for you to do in this skill is gonna be absolutely massive, aka you're most likely not gonna run out of exciting things to do. You get to customize your ships, there are sailing achievements, it also comes with added benefits of other skills like construction and fishing and mining, and you can even obtain multiple ships from different purposes. And lastly, Jagex has even stated how they want to make new minigames inside a skill, which allows you to unlock more boat options, more skilling options, and new monsters to fight. Overall, this skill seems to be the most fleshed out, as sailing is a thing that's been talked about for years now. It came to Oldschool Runescape in 2015 as a meme, and over the years players have been fleshing out this meme into actual concept that might work. What I will say about sailing is that it does open up a lot of possibilities on what to do, and you can't get stuck with this skill. There are always gonna be more options to add, either through new islands, new boats, new training methods, or combining 2 skills into one, aka let's say you can access a new tier 90 mining ore only through sailing skill, and so many more options. I think if there was ever a skill that can be infinitely expanded in the future, sailing is a strong contestant for that. Next up we have idea number 2, taming. Taming is a utility skill that lets you seek out new creatures in Gillenor to tame. Over time, you will build a unique friendship with the creature, and in return, it can help you gain advantages in other areas of the game through abilities. Companion abilities let you interact with the world in entirely new ways. Fangs, fins, gills, wings, all tools that humans don't possess but can be used to unlock new areas or skilling methods. Now your first immediate thought might be, is this a summoning skill? And the answer to that is no. Even though there are glimpses of similarities between the two, taming is going to be much more user friendly. You don't need to use charms, you don't need to make pouches, it's much more linear and realistic than that. But it does borrow some ideas from summoning, like for instance, so let's say you tame a pig, you feed it, you give it a home, you keep it active. Pigs are known for digging up and finding buried treasures under the ground, and further you go with this ability, the more you train it, which means you will get a higher chance for a good loot under the ground. This could also impact birds up in the sky that could help you track out loot, maybe even unlock new areas the players themselves can't see but the companion can. Or at a higher level, even unlock companions like dragons, like wolves, and so on, who can help you with the combat aspect. The core gameplay of taming is pretty tame. But it could offer you new ways to explore Killanor through your companion. You can find new companions through already existing creatures or new ones that will be introduced with the skill itself. Overall, I do feel like it has some similarities to summoning. The main issue I had with this skill is that training your companion and gaining taming experience is currently done through courses, and if there's one thing I know players don't enjoy doing, it's agility courses. So making essentially the same concept again but through other means doesn't seem very appealing to me. To add on top of that, the biggest issue I have currently with taming is how would that affect the already 50 plus pets we have in the game. Would those be part of taming as well, or would they be entirely separate thing? Because that would mean you have two types of pets in the game, cosmetic and for purpose pets, and that makes it extremely confusing for new players. And if you give special abilities to current pets and on top of that add new pets, that sounds like a nightmare fuel to balance, because trying to give special abilities to almost 100 pets in the game is extremely hard to balance. Take for instance any MOBA game where the developers are slowly releasing one champion at a time just to make sure the balancing is right. Now imagine if a game like League of Legends suddenly released 100 champions at the same time. That will completely mess up everything the game has been known for over a decade now, and I feel like this could correspond to taming skill as well. Adding few new abilities to the game like trolls is actually fine, because even though it has some impact on the game, it still overall doesn't change the entire system. But adding hundreds of new pets, with each of them having their own unique ability, could change the dynamic of Oldschool RuneScape to be entirely new game. Out of all the three options, this one is currently the weakest to me, but it has the possibility for improvements, which I like. And finally, idea number 3 is shamanism. First of all, hopefully the name changes. It doesn't feel quite satisfying to roll off the tongue, but honestly, that is the only bad thing I have to say about this skill. I genuinely think this is my favorite option so far. So let's talk about shamanism. The skill itself revolves a lot around finding different components around Killanor either through natural locations or disturbed sites, and then combining those different components into rituals, which allows to give you strong buffs or new items. You need to gather two types of components to make a new item, natural and spiritual components. Once you have enough from both of them, you can create a ritual circle anywhere in the world and start making items, and that's where the bulk of your experience comes from. The core concept is a mix between a production skill and a gathering skill, which I thoroughly enjoy the most. It's very simple, but it could create a lot of new interesting ideas in the game that could benefit skillers, PvMers, and even PvP players. It has something for everyone. So two components, natural and spiritual. How do you get them? Firstly, natural components come from, well, nature. You have to search around Killanor for new nodes and use your shamanism skill to harvest the goods. You're looking for new items like mushrooms, roots, barks, berries, leaves, and so on. These nature components can also be taken off beasts. Bring your carving knife to pick up valuable components from giants to get giant bone marrow, hellhounds to get hellhound blood, and so on. Once you find your nature components, you need to go to a disturbed sites, which are going to be located all around Killanor. This is the place where the spirit world meets our worlds. And if you're careful enough, you can get your hands on spiritual components through gathering. And here is where it all comes together. You need to bring your two types of components into a ritual circle, and you can create these anywhere in the world, just like fires are used for cooking. Once a circle is started, you can use the ritual to make powerful new items like oils and totems to boost your stats or weapons. You can even create dickies and potions, maybe even augmenting your existing Panda's armor, or even finding powerful healing options through combining herb lore and shamanism. And finally, once you become skilled enough in shamanism, you will have access to the spirit realm through using the disturbed sites we talked about before. You can use that to explore new mysterious areas in the game. It's basically a mirror image of Killanor itself, but it's slightly different. A place you can't access in Killanor might be open to you in the spirit world. The more experienced you are in shamanism skill, the more places you can access in the spirit world, giving you option to unlock new areas and rewards. This is without a doubt one of my favorite options. It's a very simple concept, but it allows for a lot of exploring. It stays true to the nature of Oldschool RuneScape, but at the same time allows the player to discover new ways to play the game. And currently, with the pitching stage, this is where my vote will go. I love everything about it. Buffing your armor, finding new ways to explore Killenor, getting components and making new potions, making buffs for your healing effects and so on. If I had one issue with this, hopefully it's not gonna be a case where you have to collect 28 items in your inventory, bank and then repeat. I'm really hoping the items are gonna be stackable, so it's not just a skill of collecting herb rolls secondaries, but other than that I love it, and hopefully some part of this actually makes it into the game. Now, how can you, the player, make a decision based off these three options? Firstly, there was a reason why experiences and rewards weren't fully showcased here. Jagex wants to see our response to these ideas, what we like most and least about them, and then start fleshing out details later down the line. So it's important for us to vote for the best possible option at the start of April to give Jagex an idea what to go forward with. And even after the April's poll is completed, nothing is still locked in, and there are options to go back to the process board and try even better if there are ways to make it better, or if players come up with better solutions. And after all of that is done, Jagex is finally gonna lock in a new skill which should be somewhere around summertime, and that's when the beta testing starts. Now, what are my thoughts on the skill and what Jagex got right and what they got wrong? Let's start with sailing. My main issue with sailing is that to this point I haven't seen a single good convenient way for me to train that skill to 99 and what the training methods are, whether it's from ideas that players come up with or from Jagex themselves. It seems that the most common word always used is we're giving you plenty of activities to do to train this skill, and this could literally mean anything. Technically, doing agility courses is plenty of different activities, and players despise doing agility for the most part, or it could be something like Slayer tasks, which players for the most part enjoy doing, especially the later levels. So until there is more clarification on what the training methods exactly are gonna be, I find it really hard to support this skill 100%. That being said, like I stated before, sailing has the most amount of possibilities out of all the three skills that we showcased today, meaning you can infinitely add more updates to it that feel meaningful either through new islands, new boats, new PvM content or new PvP content. Also, a user on Discord said that sailing could definitely be a skill that you can do with friends, like how partner Slayer used to work, and I 100% agree with that. Sailing as a skill is perfect for exploring new areas with friends, which Jagex has not tapped into yet. Now, taming. As it stands, this is the weakest out of the three. Don't get me wrong, I would love to get more pets that benefit the player in various ways, but like I stated before, it feels like balancing this could be an absolute nightmare and potentially ruin the integrity of Oldschool feeling. Adding dozens, maybe even hundreds of new abilities in one go revolving around utility, treasure hunting, combat, skilling could potentially mean game breaking to say the least. What I thoroughly enjoy about taming is having a permanent pet though. Everybody loves pets. They are one of these things in game that players respect the most. If you have unlocked like 30 plus pets on your account, that is a good freaking account, and I respect that. And if Jagex somehow manages to make it more like that, where the threshold for unlocking new abilities is about as hard as obtaining pets currently in game, then maybe I can see this being a new skill. And finally, shamanism. Like I said, this is my favorite out of the three, and here's why. I do realize this is off-putting to some players, but a few years ago RS3 released a new skill called archaeology, and I managed to try it out myself, and I absolutely freaking loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed doing it, and shamanism has few aspects from that skill that I enjoy, mostly finding new components and combining them together. Hopefully this won't become a grind like we currently have with some buffs, where you have to go through hundreds of hours of gathering just to buff your weapons a little bit, and it's a more linear process where you spend like 4 or 5 hours to gather components and then gradually buff your items or find powerful means to increase your stats. And just FYI, I am not worried about buffing being related to power creep, as I feel like it's an inevitable process that's gonna happen one way or another, and if it comes through an entirely new skill, I am absolutely okay with that. So, these were my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments and let's discuss. What new skill would you like to see in Oldschool Runescape? If you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing, but until then, I'll see you in a few days with another video. Bye! Mwah.